Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel, The Lazy Bookworm. I'm Rebecca. I hope all of you are doing well wherever you all are. And in this video I'm going to talk about what books I'm going to read in 2023. So it is nearly December, it is nearly Christmas, and that means it is nearly the end of 2022. I personally cannot believe it. I believe this year's gone by so quickly. And yes, I just can't believe it is going to be 2023 next year. And so obviously with the winding down of the year and the sort of recognition that New Year's about to start, we all start to think about what we want to do in the new year. What plans, what kind of things we would like to do, we would like to go, etc. And with books, that is no exception. And so after watching a video by Lisa from Lisa in Bookland, and I'll put the link down below, where she talks about what classics she wants to read in 2023. Now, I am nowhere near as organised as she is, but that did give me a sort of push to think about what books would I like to read next year. Now, I have divided my reading list for 2023 into 3 parts. First, classic novels. 2, poetry. And 3, non-fiction. And all of these, for the most part, books on my physical TBR, because I'm really hoping to read more books on my physical TBR next year. Here is my first section, classic books I want to read in 2023. Okay, the classic books I want to read in 2023 are in no particular order. I have no idea when I'm going to read them in 2023. All I know is I want to read them in 2023. The first one is a book that's very dear to my heart, and that is Walter Scott's Ivanhoe. I don't know if you can see the cover. It's a beautiful sort of purpley cover. I'm very sorry about the light. Hope the light is not too distracting. This is very special because apparently, according to my mum, I'm actually named after one of the characters in this book. I got this about a year or 2 ago, and it's just been on my TBRs, just waiting to be picked up and read. So I am hoping to definitely read this next year. The second one is Daniel Deronda by George Eliot. I read Middlemarch and Mill and Floss this year by George Eliot. I really liked both of them, and so I'm wanting to read another George Eliot next year, and I thought I would choose this one. The third book, classic I want to read next year, is actually a Russian classic, and that is Virgin Soil by Ivan Taginyev. I really liked Taginyev's 2 works I read this year. Was it Fathers and Sons and First Love? I in particular really liked Fathers and Sons. And I got this book because it sounded really interesting to me. It's basically about a group of well-to-do Russians who are revolutionaries, and they go to live in a sort of peasant's village. The next one is Thomas Hardy's Far from the Madding Crowd. It was really a toss-up between reading this and Tess. I chose this one because I've heard it's a little less depressing than Tess. 2 humongous classics I'm going to read next year. If I don't read any classics, I want to read these, and it is Les Miserables by Victor Hugo and War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. Now, Les Mis, technically I've actually already started it. I read, I think, the first 3, I'm on to book 3 in the first section, so I actually have already started it, but I definitely want to finish this by the end of next year. I'm reading War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. This is part of the Russian vintage classics. Look at the beautiful cover. Because, well, I've read a couple of Leo Tolstoy, but I haven't read his two major works, War and Peace and Anna Karenina. So I thought, well, next year maybe it's a good opportunity to read one of those. I originally was going to read actually Anna Karenina next year, but I've actually joined a group on Instagram. I think it's headed by Footnotes and Tangents. That's his name. I think that's his handle. And what they're doing is reading, I think it's a page of War and Peace every day for the entirety of 2023. The second section is on poetry, and I've only got 2 books for this, so it's quite short. And the first one is A Shropshire Lad by A.E. Houseman. I was going to try and read this for October, but I just didn't get round to it. Depending on the prompts, I may read it for October next year. And the second poetry book I'd like to read is Beowulf by Anonymous. No one really knows who wrote Beowulf. And this is a 10th century Old English poem. These are the non-fiction books I would like to read in 2023. The first one is The Purpose-Driven Life by Rick Warren. I know he's a bit of a controversial, pastor. I think in America he's a sort of evangelical pastor. I'm not evangelical, but I actually read little bits of this and I found them really interesting, and there's sort of like exercises you can do, and it's just about finding kind of God's purpose in your life. The second one is also a religious book, but a little different, and it is Julian of Norwich's Revelations of Divine Love. I actually got this as a present many years ago, and I read it, but I read it very, very quickly. In fact, a little too quickly. So I thought next year I will give it a reread, and I will actually give it the time. Now on to a rather different tact. Herbert Marcuse's One-Dimensional Man. This is a sort of philosophical, sociological book about how capitalism kind of breeds conformity in all of us and creates a sort of very sort of set one-dimensional model that we kind of all become, so to speak. The language is a bit old-fashioned. One-dimensional man just could mean one-dimensional person. It's not literally about a man. I've kind of like it because I kind of like the sort of critique of capitalism. That sounds kind of cool, but I've also heard that this can be quite dense. So I'm kind of looking forward to reading it, but I'm kind of not looking forward to reading it. Last non-fiction is Vincent's Books, Van Gogh and the Writers Who Inspired Him by Mariella Gazzoni. Apologies if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I think I saw this on Caroline Marie Reed's channel. I think she got this as like in a book haul, and it just looks so fascinating to me. I mean, I love books and I love Vincent van Gogh. He's probably one of my favourite artists. That is the list of books I want to read in 2023. I'm hoping I will read them. Because I sometimes can get very distracted by particularly library books and other books that take my fancy. Tell me in the comments whether you have read any of these books and what you think. Also tell me what other books you would like to read in 2023. Have you decided yet? Have you already made up a big list? Or are you sort of one of these readers that sort of kind of goes with the flow? Doesn't really like a preset plan, so to speak. And on that note, I will see you next time. Please remember to like and subscribe. And I will see you next video.